Hello there and welcome to this database tutorial in VisualBasic.net. This is going to be a simple tutorial on how to connect a database, an Access database, to your program. Now this is just the start of a series of videos that's going to show you how to interrogate databases. We're going to move on to structured query language as well a little bit later on, but this one is just a really simple ease into the database creation. So the first thing we need to do is we need to build a program, build a project. I called this database tutorial, and what we're going to do first, believe it or not, is we're going to create the database first that we're going to use in the program. So I've opened up Microsoft Access here, and I'm going to create a blank database. Now, apologies for moving through this quite quickly because I want to try and keep these videos as short as possible. So this database is going to be called employee, let's call it employee data. Okay, now in there it's going to be stored in my documents. I'm going to store it just on my desktop for now, and then it goes and create the database. So what you'll see here is I've got my database created, and it's asking me about table 1 here. Now I don't necessarily need that table. If I don't want it, I can delete it, but I need to close that down first, so I will. Okay, so I've got no table at all. Now I can go to the Create tab, and you'll see here this is a really quick intro into Access. So I click Table, and Table 1 will appear again. Now it remains Table 1 until I save it. So the first thing I've got here is something called my ID. Now this little star here means that this is my primary key, and I can add whatever I like into these columns and rows, but I like to design my databases from the design view. So into the design view, I'm going to call this table employee data, and in it goes. Okay, now you see the ID here. I would like to have an employee ID, so EID, and that is going to be, I can have it as an auto number, which means it will automatically increment every time I add a new record in. But what I want to do instead is I'm going to have a number in there. So I might have five numbers inside my employee ID. I'm also going to have my first name, and that's going to be a short text. I'm going to have a last name in there as well. Date of birth. I can have a country in there if I wanted to, and phone. There we go. Short little Access database. This is just going to be single table, so it's not relational really. And these are my different data types that I can have. Now inside date of birth, I'll probably change that one to date time. And depending on how far you want to go with this, you can change different things set here, such as the input mask and the formats and the default value and what validation you can have and things like that. However, our program will handle all of that for us. So if I just go back to my view, if I save it, go back to my view, you'll notice here now I've got my employee ID. So let's add the employee ID, first name, last name, country, UK, and we'll go a phone number. Okay, so we've added a record in there, and I can add that in, no problem. And I can create another one if I wanted to. There's too many. There we are. There you go, just some example data in there, and I'll save my Access database. Now once that's saved and that's created, we can just close that down. Go back to our program for a second. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to link the database into my project now. Now in order to do this, you're going to need a window, and that window is normally hidden inside the other window. It's called Data Sources. You can press Shift, Alt and D to get this up, but here's my data sources, and I can click Add New Data Source, and I can add in a database, click Next. I want a data set, click Next, and now you'll see I have no connection to a database, so I need to create a new connection. So off I go. And I want to keep Microsoft Access database file, OLDB, and I'll browse for the database that I've just created. Now, I created that on my desktop, so I'll go, and there's my employee data database. So I open that up, and you'll notice that I don't need to set an admin password, and I can just test the connection to make sure that it's going to connect, and it has. It's connected, no problem. And I click OK. Now here, this connection string, this is quite important. Now if you leave it off and you just click Next, it says the connection you have selected uses local data file that is not in the current project. Would you like to copy the file to your project and modify the connection? If you copy the data file to your project, it will be copied to the project's output directory each time you run the application. Press F1 for information on controlling this behavior. Now, what that means is it's going to create the database, it's going to create a copy of it, and it's going to make it local to your project. So if I click yes now, okay, there is my employee data connection string. Click next, and you'll see the tables. Here is my employee data. So they're the fields that I created before in my database, and I click finish. Okay, and now you'll see the employee account database there, employee database has been attached. So let me show you exactly where this is, because sometimes it can get pretty confusing, or you can get crossed wires as to where things are. So if I try and find it in here, which it is in database tutorial, go inside the top folder into your bin, and you'll see this access database here. This is not the one that updates. The one that updates is inside your debug folder when you run your program. So that's where it will be. So let's have a go then at getting it up and running. Let's just start my program, make sure there's no problems so far. Yep, there you go, there's a blank form. And what you'll notice now, once you've ran it once and you go and have a look inside that same folder, inside the debug folder, you'll notice this is the employee data database that gets accessed every time, and this is where the data will be that gets updated or deleted or viewed. So I'll clear that off for now. And down here in the employee data set, in the employee sources, you'll see all of these on your drop down menu. So what I'll do here is I'll just click the drop down, and you can see data grid view, and you can see details. So if I change to details and then I drag it across, you'll notice now that automatically what's created are all the boxes to update or view. And if I select data grid view, I can drag that across, and here we'll have a data grid view of my database. And I can expand this if I wanted to see all the fields. There we go. And because the data connection has been set up, if I just run or start my program, what you'll see here is I have two records in there. My first record is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Jonathan Barker, date of birth, UK, etc. and Matt as well. So this is linked to the data grid view. And there we go, click on that person, click back to me, it changes. I can use these tabs to move me back and forward, etc. And if I change one of these, click save, it'll save in the data grid view. Now the only problem I have when I restart my program is that it's not saved. So in order to fix this and make sure that it does actually save to the actual database itself, is you need to click on the account database that you're trying to talk to, which is employeedata.accdb, account database, access database. And then what we do is we go to copy to output directory, and we say copy if newer. So if the actual data gets updated, then we copy it across. And now if we run this, let's just bring this up to our screen. I'm going to click on John. John's been changed. Put it back to Jonathan. Save and stop my program running. Run it again. Brings it back from the database, and it's been updated to Jonathan. Okay, so try and get that working. That's the first step of our database tutorial. Very quick one, simple little program. Hopefully yours is working just the same.